everybody. I'm Marianne Waldman with Teach My Kid to Read, and for the first time I am live in Troy, New York, which is the first library that we ever went to when we started our Road to Decode program, and I'm really excited to introduce two people this time. Carol Roberts, the Director of Youth and Children at the Troy Public Library, and author and literacy specialist Lois Letchford, and we are very excited to be together, almost shocked. So I'm going to start with a couple of questions, and I'm going to begin with Carol. And the first question is, could you tell us a little bit about your library and the community?
Sure. Our library is over 100 years old and is still in the original building. Also known as the Hart Memorial Building. We're right here in downtown Troy at 102nd Street. We are an urban community, so we get a lot of people that live within walking distance here in downtown. And we have college professors, working people, you name it. We have quite a variety of customers here.
And so thank you. So my next question is going to be for the both of you, and it's about what you're doing in the community to help more families of early and struggling readers. And you're both kind of in the same space but different perspectives, so whoever wants to go first. Okay.
Well, one of the ways we're trying to help the community is to get more books out there, and one of the ways we do that is we use them as prizes often. We have also done things like we got rid of fines, late fines for books. So a lot of times we find that that can be a deterrent to people wanting to use the library. So we've eliminated that problem. We reach out to the schools, and in non-pandemic times, we offer a lot of programs for children and families that are both educational and recreational. So we're trying to gather people in, draw people to the library, because we're a free resource, and we can help them with all kinds of things, whether for their own enrichment or for fun. We're here.
That sounds good, and and I will say that I'm glad that I always know that you do carry decodable books, and you had a wonderful display in 2019 for Dyslexia Awareness Month, which I think should be every month. It should be Literacy Awareness Month, but you're a resource too. I believe you have. Do you have? I think it's called that section where you have kits and things for teachers to take out.
Yes, we have a big parent-teacher section. So we have information on parenting. We have sample lesson plans for teachers, books about child development, and then books to help with homeschooling. We even have a homeschooling magazine. We also do have a lot of readers, including the decodable readers, which are great for every kid as they're learning to read. You don't need to have dyslexia to be able to benefit from using a decodable reader. And we're going to be raffling off one complete set of decodable readers next month.
Oh, good. That's always exciting to hear, and it is, because these are, I always say, they're books that make sense, especially when your kids are just starting to learn to, say the sound and read the word. Why not go in a logical order? And I can go on with this, but I would like to hear, Lois, you talk a little bit about, you're a resource yourself to help more families of early and struggling readers here.
Yes, I'm the author of the book Reverse to Memoir, and my story came about because my son failed first grade and couldn't read, and the prognosis was dire. So long story short, I ended up becoming a literacy specialist through teaching him, and what I use is a lot of poetry. And what I've done on my website and on my YouTube channel is read poetry, and that's accessible for free. I've also read a number of series of books so that children can hear the language flowing. So you want children to listen as well as read independently. And all of my books come from Troy Library that I use on my website and on the YouTube channel. So go there, listen, re-listen to them, and just enjoy language. I love poetry because it uses a wide range of language. They're short, they're repeatable, and kids love them. And they create an incredible image in the mind of the child.
That's great. You know, it's interesting too, because you were talking about poetry, and I'm going to get back to decodables, because even though we're the two sides of reading, we are very emphatic about, you know, all kids being able to go to the library and have access to those books for learning to read, and also if they're an older child and they're struggling and they just want to have some age-appropriate books that they can read, like, you know, the Simple Words books and some of the newer decodables that are coming out. But I did learn about now there are plays, and I believe that Simple Words books is doing decodable book plays, which is an interesting, you know, twist on that genre. But again, there's older kids that may not necessarily be at the first phase of just learning to read, but they're at a level where they want age-appropriate content and variety. And so, you know, it's always interesting to hear about the different genres, and you're using poetry as a teaching tool, an imagery tool. So it's
And
interesting.
I have a reading writing program, and the first thing we do is take a book and turn it into a play, because it takes away the description. And it pulls out the main conversation, and you get that. And everything else that's done is then done through action or voice. You know, he stutters, and that would come out in a whole line when you're reading it. But when you've turned it into a play, you've just got stuttering, or you've got loudly. So you make the conversation very easy for children who are struggling. And then you've got most of the words they will know, and then there'll be a few vocabulary words they won't know. So, and my ultimate goal is always to make learning an enjoyable experience, not to be a painful experience, because most of the children who struggle have been in pain when learning to read, and that's got to go. So they've got to be there and enjoying it. And how do you do that? First, by reading to them, having them listen to the story before you ask them to read it. Because although you think, oh, that's cheating, it's not. It gives them the background knowledge, it gives them the story structure, it gives them the vocabulary. They have to go back and read every single sentence and make sense of it. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, I'm fascinated by anything that builds vocabulary and, you know, helps with memory and pronunciation. It does make sense to me, and as, you know, somebody who I occasionally do script writing myself, and the way you break it down and then the way you have to see the different information, I'm following, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's great. And so a question that I have then, and this is to Carol, or some brainstorming too, is in this community, this diverse urban community, our community, Troy, what are the biggest needs you see from families of both early and struggling readers? What do you think is the biggest need?
I think it's getting books to kids, and the way to do that is getting kids to come to the library and trying to make that feasible. One of the things we did was we came up with the idea of having a library card that's just for kids. It's called the My Card, and a kid can take out 3 books, and they don't need their parents' permission. They can just check out a book, and they're responsible for it and returning it. And that has been a real positive in this community. A lot of times, you know, a family might have some books that got lost. Oftentimes people end up having to move. And so sometimes books, they don't always keep track of things, so books might get lost, and then people have these huge replacement costs. Whereas with My Book, the child can only take out three items, so that's not hard to keep track of. And that way, if there's an issue with, say, a card, the adult or the parent's card, it doesn't affect the child's ability to borrow materials. And so that's really what we were looking to accomplish. So that's been very successful.
Yeah.
What about, Lois, you seem like you have something to say about families, for families of early and striving readers.
Well, I get all my books from Troy Library because you want to change them over. We only live in a small apartment, so I can't keep buying books and it adds up. But just storing them is a problem. So the library is fantastic for that. Use it, use it, use it.
Well, you know, and now I can hop in, even though we both have older children. Obviously, yours are grown now. Mine's a teenager, and your kids are grown too, Carol. But I've had the opportunity to talk with a lot of parents lately, and it's freshish in my mind coming into the library, and especially when you start thinking that maybe my kid isn't just getting it, is there something I'm missing? And, you know, I think that you're a resource to be able to recommend, well, start here at some of these books at the very, you know, at the very beginning, that there's the decoding piece, and even before you get into decodable books, there's some things you could do so you start to be sure that you're hearing the sounds and words, and accessing all the wonderful books in the library, so that, you know, kids are able to pursue any topic or anything that interests them. And I think, you know, just your own recommendations and the librarians in your library being able to guide parents, I think, is a resource in this community, and that's my opinion.
Well, thank you. That's my greatest joy is being able to help a child find a book, or help a parent find a book for their child. And one of the things I've discovered is that kids love comics, and comics really help them build their vocabulary, because they use the images as context clues. And so that actually studies have shown that kids that read comics tend to have better vocabularies than kids that are simply reading straight fiction. So that was interesting to learn. And also, reading should be fun.
Yeah.
Learning should be fun.
Learning should be fun. Right.
Yes, it should be. And I mean, even, you know, to get back to you know, to get back to the decodables, I always thought, you know, the ones that we represent, we don't represent, we often recommend ones that everybody can have access to, and like the beginning reading instruction, the IC SAM books, because we work with, you know, Dr. Richard Schatz. I mean, those are pretty basic books, and I've seen kids just get really, really thrilled because they can read them and it follows such a logical format. And then there's books, you know, there's decodable books that really just look as good as any authentic literature right now. And, you know, and then on the authentic literature side, it's amazing. And, you know, you talk about graphic novels. I just gave Carol a new book, The Kayla Chronicles, which you may not know about. It's hot off the press, and it features a teenage girl with dyslexia and her adventures. It's in a comic book format, being asked to read aloud, etc., and it's got resources and interactivities. It's just, you know, a relatable story with other activities along the way. So what I would like, and this is maybe my dream with some of these books as well as some other books we're excited about, is to start having kids, hi everybody, is to start having some reviews from kids using some of these books. Maybe not the decodables, but something like the Kayla Chronicles or some of the other books that we recommend. That's another way to get kids engaged, even if it's an audio review. However they feel comfortable talking about the content.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and I know one way we could do that. We'll have a winter reading club again. We just finished summer reading, but when kids are signed up for that, they can actually write their own reviews and post them. So
that's huge, because I know getting reviews for books is a nightmare.
Yes, and you know, I told Carol we have a little free library we're installing in Albany at an urban farm, and we're part of a Read and Color program, which is access to diverse literature. And so we're excited about getting some older kids involved, especially in some of the social justice topics that they can write about and talk about, and maybe even share with some of the younger kids where the topics are presented at maybe a different age-appropriate level, but getting kids involved and, you know, even on Teach My Kid to Read, we'd be happy to post some of these book reviews because, you know, we want to feature some of this work. So, yeah, the winter reading challenge sounds great. It feels like you just had the one last year. Time goes fast.
It does.
So any other comments from either of you about the community or pie in the sky?
Troy is a great community. As you said, it's a wide variety of people here because of the university. And they bring a whole new mindset to learning. And I just love being part of the whole community. And that there's a drive for knowledge. And I think that comes through. Would you think so? I mean, I just...
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I have a lot of children who are, parents are here because mom or dad has a job or is studying at RPI among other schools around. And so I get kids from all over the world, really. Yes. Yes, and keeping with that, we're going to be having Mango Languages available soon, and there will also be a child's component. So any child that has a Troy Library card can learn multiple languages, including English.
I have two adopted grandsons. They're Japanese. And it's amazing what they can do now. Because they hear Japanese, they know I speak English and can't speak Japanese, but they also go onto YouTube and listen to all the languages around the world.
Yeah, their brains are like little sponges.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. And, you know, and well, I'm glad too that you talked about your experience getting all the books at the Troy Public Library, because I still, you know, I mean, I admit I use Libby mostly at this point, or, you know, the Upper Hudson Library System. I go and I get these digital books, and it's partly because I'm a slow reader, because I read a few books at a time, and I end up having to constantly renew them. And it's easier. It's easier that way. But I do feel like adrift if I don't have a library card. You know, that it's, you know, I really, for me, it is one of the greatest joys, and, you know, one of the greatest apps. And I panic because it did somehow my library card expired over the pandemic, and I was embarrassed. I had to, you know, I'm admitting it to the world. I had to go to the Pine Hills Public Library, and the children's librarian saw me, and we talked about our early literacy decodable book bundles, and I renewed my card. But it really is a joy. And so, you know, these interviews are really great opportunities to just showcase the work that libraries are doing. And, you know, in some communities, this is an urban community, you know, the libraries are all the community has. This library is just a tremendous asset. And I might add, it's a beautiful, beautiful library in a historic section. And so I'm glad that both of you are here, and I'm looking forward to brainstorming of more things that we can do to improve and enhance literacy in Troy, New York.
That sounds great. Well, I'm hoping we'll be able to do more in-person programs before too long. And then the sky's the limit.
Yes.
Yeah, and, you know, if not, I'm hardy. If the kids are game, I'm ready to do something outside year-round. So the offer's out there. I don't know if I could drag Lois to do it with me, but however we can spread the word and do some programming. Maybe not that popular in the dead of winter in Troy, New York, but I'm willing.
It's delightful to be here. Thank you,
Yes.
Marion.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.